She's the goddess with the plan at the end of the world. Got a puppet in her hand. She's a pulling the string. A marionette that gathers every little thing, that follows every command and every little whim. Got a wondering thing. Gonna visit the world, grabbing arms full of everything good and true. Make a golem out of junk. Make a planet anew. If you want to come along, she'll take you too. Welcome to New Game Plus. This is a retro gaming podcast where three guys spend 7 days playing one old game and then we talk about it. My name's Dustin.
My name is Kenny.
Nolan.
And this is episode 411. Question of the week. What is your favorite quote from a video game?
Okay, so I have to go with BioShock on this one. There are a few you could say from BioShock, but it's going to be Would You Kindly, because it represents a big twist and important thing in that game. And my runner-up is Hey Listen.
Okay.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Both great submissions. You saying it is a big twist kind of takes away that it's a big twist, even if you don't say what the twist is.
Everyone's played that game.
But it's a retro game. It's an old
Everybody's
game.
played that game.
Not everybody's played that game. But both good. The latter one annoying though, right?
No,
endearing mostly. It gets a little annoying, but like it's a good
childhood.
thing.
That's childhood.
Yeah, and I also went to just like classics. When you said quote, I think my brain went to just sort of like, I don't know, kind of like what Nolan said, like clippy little voiceovers, not like a good, meaningful quote. And for me, it's the classic RTS era stuff. Work.
From Age of Empires?
Is that Age of Empires?
I don't know.
Is that Warcraft? I think it's Warcraft.
You would know better than me.
Yeah, that's the little
work.
The little worker.
Okay.
And so many of the StarCraft ones are big for me, of course, as well. You know,
I don't know.
Require more Vespian gas. Some of the Raynor quotes. It's just I thought RTSs are my answer.
I thought you were going to say the princesses in another castle. It's a good quote.
Oh,
War never changes.
Never
that
changes.
One's so good. I think there's another part of that too that's so good.
I looked. I think it varies from game to game within the Fallout series, but that is a standard.
It's like
phrase.
That phrase right there. All of Fallout.
I think that first, like the original Fallout intro, may be my favorite video game intro of all time.
It feels like a movie.
Amazing.
Do y'all want some NGP lore that you may have known at one point but have forgotten, and most people that are listening to this do not know?
Yes.
I believe it's still true. Our very first video that you can still find, our oldest video on our YouTube channel, is me speedrunning Fallout 1 in 10 minutes.
I remember that. That is our first YouTube video. That was the first play.
Isn't that ridiculous?
Yeah, I don't know why you decided to do that.
Absolutely ridiculous.
week.
Well, I don't know either.
10 minutes into the game, I hadn't even figured out how to punch a rat.
That was crazy for you,
Punch
Kenny.
a rat.
Okay, and then I've got one other one. Y'all can hate it if you want. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted.
I have no
idea. It is the maxim of the Assassin's Creed. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. Shut up, Kenny.
I had to cough off screen. I had to cough.
Or whatever they do in those games.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's...
He jumped to Age of Empires 2 and the little priest thing.
I'll tell you,
you know what?
Thank you, Kenny.
One game that has a billion great quotes that's modern, Elden Ring. Every boss has like the darkest, most awesome line before they kill you. Start killing
before
you
die.
Over and over.
And you hear it over and over. That's why you
I know, it's
great.
Every
single one of them you're going to hear on
I
repeat.
am Melania, Blade of Mikola. Everybody's haunted by that line. And then she just
decimates.
You're dead.
It is always good to have outstanding, iconic, unique quotes, because no one wants something that's merely copy paste, recycled content over and over again. Like in our retro game of the week, the wonderful End of the World.
Overview.
The game is The Wonderful End of the World, released in 2008 for the PC. We've said it before, we say it a lot. It's always sketchy when we get a PC game pulled on the podcast, but typically they're from the 90s, and those are somewhat hard to revive today because you need a particular system if they weren't kept alive. Thankfully, 2008 is a lot later to where this might be the very first game or the second game that we played on the podcast in 411 games that was natively the first time released on Steam.
Interesting. And also maybe one of the like not only but like this is an indie-ish kind of release. PC 2008. That's not AAA, that's not going to like Xbox, PlayStation. And so we played Left 4 Dead recently, and that was on Steam, and that's the only other one I can like recall that was just accessible.
But was that even originally on Steam?
Originally released is the trick there, because there's a bunch of stuff we've played that are available, but yeah, I'm not sure either.
I'm not going to.
It's at least one of a handful.
Yeah. It you said something about indie, and I don't really know what the delineation is here, but it is Dejobaan Games that developed this game studio that published this game. I don't know much about Dejobaan. I don't know if do y'all know, are they an indie corporation?
I had never heard of them, and so that is a good candidate for them being indie.
Yeah.
Like I said, that year, I feel like that was right before the kind of renaissance of indie hit gaming, and so I would probably say yes, they would be.
They're either an indie developer or indie adjacent. How about that?
Indie adjacent.
And again, came out for the PC 2008. It's an action game, I guess. Let me describe what it is so that you can understand or what kind of genre it is. Katamari Damacy.
We've played it. We like it.
That was my explanation.
That was the end.
Yeah.
Okay. It's obviously going to be a big talking point the entire time that we were doing this episode.
I was going to just try and point out some of the differences.
Hold on, though. We have to save that. But there's not a lot of differences to talk about.
It's an accurate way to describe the game.
It is.
We played Katamari Damacy, and it was my first time coming to the franchise, and I think Kenny's first time. Oh, all of ours.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay. We played Katamari Damacy for episode 255, so it has been a minute since we played that. That was 3 years ago.
Are you insane? That was last year, and you know it.
No, 3 years ago. Came out on the PlayStation 2 in 2004. So we're 4 years predating this game. And it was a game where you were a little alien creature that was pushing around a growing ball of items that you would collect on any given stage. And you couldn't just pick up anything. It needed to be a small item, and then you could pick up a slightly larger item. Then as your mass grew, you could pick up progressively larger items. That is nearly the exact same thing that you're doing here in The Wonderful End of the World, except you're not an alien pushing around a ball. You are a small creature that is walking. You have kind of legs and arms appendages, and you are walking and picking up progressively larger and larger items.
Yeah, so you're a humanoid shape. I think technically you're a puppet. There's at least references to the fact that the weird girl singing the song is your marionette. But like it doesn't matter. You're walking around and you're growing as you touch things.
Fun fact about this game, it's not that fun. It was in this thing called the Potato Sack, which was a bundle of games that Valve released, all indie games, to promote Portal 2. Yeah, 2008.
I think you're thinking about Orange Box.
Not. And there were a bunch of other like indie studio games in here. Killing Floor was one of them, which kind of became a pretty popular like zombie killing game. And Super Meat Boy was also in the potato sack, which obviously did the best out of all of them. But this game was also in there.
Yeah, I remember when Super Meat Boy came out. That one was a big deal. I gotta say though, it's kind of rude to put out a compilation of like off the radar indie games and be like, here's a bunch of here's a bunch of games. We're giving them to you in a potato sack.
And Portal 2 is our good game.
Here's the quality that we think of. I don't know. There's just an implication.
No, I like the exposure. That's huge exposure.
Well, yeah, but find another vehicle to transport these games besides the potato sack. It was just kind of backhanded.
The naming you don't like. Okay.
Kenny, I have one question based on something that you said. Does marionette refer to the puppeteer or to the puppet?
Oh, that's a great question.
I don't know. I don't know
puppet.
Annette.
You don't know Annette.
So how can he marry her? That explains.
That's what they came here for. Oh well, I'm looking at a marionette's puppeteer is called a marionettist. That's true. That's true.
That's a mistake, but it is true.
So yes, I guess theoretically you are the marionette. You're not going to know that playing this game because that is not a part of it. You don't ever see your marionettist. You don't ever see strings attached to you or anything like that.
You do hear that song that says the word marionette 48 times. You're going to hear it over and over and over again.
And I won't read the whole thing, but to let you know what the quote-unquote story is here, I will tell you that she's the goddess with the plan at the end of the world, got a puppet in her hand, she's a pulling the string. A marionette that gathers every little thing, that follows every command and every little whim. Got a wondering thing, gonna visit the world, grabbing arms full of everything good and true. Make a golem out of junk, make a planet anew. If you want to come along, she'll take you too.
Gameplay.
Hearing that it was basically Katamari because Dustin mentioned at the end of last episode. I go into the game kind of prepared for that, which I think is fine. Being inspired by games and then trying to make similar games is fine. So I'm looking immediately for what makes this game different. And I don't have an answer for that for you guys. But to paint the picture, Dustin already mentioned in an overview, but you are walking around instead of rolling, picking up objects.
That's one difference.
Yeah,
that's one difference.
These are going to be so small. Keep going.
I think that might be the only one.
No, I got another.
There's maybe... What's the other difference? I don't...
Kenny, you can say one, and then if you don't
the music is not the same.
Well,
Come
sure.
on, no. I'm talking about fundamentally, like...
So we got one still. Momentum is different. In Katamari, you have to deal with momentum. So, like, if you take your hand off the controller or whatever, your character will keep moving a little bit. Here, you don't really have to deal with momentum. Maybe when you're super large, like you do. But in this game, you don't. And that is a difference. Those are... honestly, the only two fundamental differences, other than, yes, the music's different and the stages are different.
Right, it's different stuff you're collecting, whatever else, but it's exactly the same game.
So for people that haven't played Katamari and you haven't looked it up yet, your character you're controlling is sticky. And there are a bunch of random objects in the level, and you walk to them and they stick to you. And as more and more things stick to you, you get larger and larger and can pick up larger objects.
And in this game, you receive a grade at the end based on your performance, how large you got, how many items you got within the amount of time allotted to you. And so it's a alphabetical grade. I don't know what it is. So your best is an A+. Yeah.
Yeah, it's school system grading.
I'm assuming you can get a C or a D. We'll have to ask Kenny. I only had A's and B's.
You can get an F.
Kenny can confirm that you can get an F?
I can confirm that you can, only
how's that possible?
Not from my experience. I never got an F. I'm just telling you I know that fact from research.
So you just stand still.
Know. Yeah, I mean, you can not collect anything.
I would assume that's how that would come out.
Okay, but I will say one of the big differences is that when we played Katamari, we were on the PlayStation 2, so we were using a PlayStation 2 or similar controller. Here, it's PC. So you are using, and it feels good. I'm telling you, when we're in mid 2000s or even early 2000s, and we're using WASD as our movement, it's good.
I took to it immediately when I first got a PC, and I have always preferred it to.
Whoever made that decision,
I don't know.
Who do you think?
Thomas.
Yeah,
Thomas. Thanks, Tom.
Made that decision. I think it's good, and listen. We've got to make an episode out of this. I felt like I had control of my character, and it was fun, like Katamari, to be able to explore these environments. Many of them were not large, but the thing that is fun here is that one level in particular, you start in kind of a small, squared off, walled environment, a diorama maybe, and as you grow, you actually outgrow that space, and then you're able to go to other dioramas or other places around that little office space. Like that kind of exploration is fun, and there's something that is addicting for me, and I think other people that enjoy these games, of gathering slightly larger things and getting big.
I think the gameplay loop's super brain off, which is fine, and just fun, mindless kind of gameplay. I enjoy games like that as well, and it's really fun to like play games like this and multitask. If you're like watching a stream or you're talking to friends in Discord, this is like the game for that. One of my favorite realizations for you, Dustin, was in the first play when you're in the walled off one where there's like you're picking up orbs, and then you slowly realize that you're in a Pac-Man imitation stage. With ghosts and everything, and then you start seeing other game references, and so that's fun. Like when they, that was maybe one of the only instances where they kind of tricked me, or tricked the player of like, oh wow, this is a larger level. I'm starting to see things as I grow and get bigger. But other stages, you're in a coffee shop, and they're like, you just have to appreciate how ridiculous the level is. There's like people waiting in line, and there's a dude working, and he's just running in circles, and there's a snake in the cafe.
Oh yeah, it doesn't make sense. But it's the end of the world.
It doesn't make sense at all.
And people need their coffee.
And I guess that's this genre, but I blame so many things on Katamari, because if you remember, that game is weird.
Oh, it's absolutely goofy.
You could do a game like this that was mindless but sort of satisfying and a, like experience, and either add some interesting gameplay, put some like puzzle elements in there that you had to kind of figure out like the right route to grow, or like you can't grow too fast or you can't get out of somewhere and into somewhere else, and like give me a reason to think, or make it completely brainless but without being some kind of weird drug trip. Like you're allowed to do the mechanic without also copying the fact that Katamari was absolutely just bat crazy. And
so you think they went too hard into the like lunacy vibe?
I think it was exactly. It was a copy paste, not just of like the gameplay, but of the entire sort of like attempt at what the game was, and it felt
I think it's hard to avoid.
Derivative. No, it's not. Make it a cozy little game where you run around and collect things and grow, but without being a world-conquering goddess puppet or something. They could have done anything else.
Kenny doesn't do drugs, and
that's the issue
true.
Here.
And has issues with games that aren't normal. Nolan, did not give Katamari Damacy his vote for New Game Plus status.
Interesting.
Yeah,
you did it?
I did
he
not.
bounced off of that game. What do you think he's going to feel about this game?
Wow. Okay.
So like, we're thinking about that. We're also thinking about the tall yellow giant that Nolan and I gave New Game Plus status. That's not true, but Kenny didn't.
Doshin's better than Katamari.
Dustin did not give it New Game Plus.
I know, but I don't like to acknowledge that. But anything that is weird or non-RTS, he doesn't like.
No, that's not true. I like weird stuff.
No, you don't.
If it's
Name one.
intentionally or interestingly weird.
Name
one weird.
Name one weird.
Just a weird. That's not.
No, Kenny likes punny stuff in games, like punny humor and
sometimes.
Like, but when it comes
to
just like straight up trippy, this makes no sense game, you're right. I think he's like. He starts to think critically about what's wrong with it.
What happens is I look for a reason to play, and you guys keep saying fun, like that's descriptive of this, and it's not. Nolan, you were like, it's fun if I put on a movie or something that actually is entertaining me, and I just do this in the background. It's fun if I'm doing something else at the same time that's actually fun. It's mindless, and it fills time. It's I'll wait and share with you my real feelings at some point.
I think one thing in this game that was a bit of a letdown for me coming from enjoying Katamari, it feels indie in execution in that the things you're picking up are extremely rudimentary. And in Katamari, I think the levels, the worlds were a little more fleshed out and made at least a little more sense in how they start. And then by the end, it's like crazy, right? In this one, it's just like very, very basic, and there's no rhyme or reason to like placement of some of certain things in the environments. And they just felt like a little, it feels a little thrown together, but the core goal of like, oh, I wonder if I can pick that building up. I want to try to get that big to try and get it, you know, like that's still here. That goal is still here for me. I just think Katamari executed it better.
That piece, I can see there being some satisfaction in like, oh man, that thing's massive. Let's see if I can get to the point where I can grab it and make it part of me. Like I get the appeal for people that like these games, but you're right, Nolan. There was something about this, and again, Katamari was weird, but intentionally and trying to be. This one was weird, but it just felt derivative. It felt like, to me, it was just thinking that's how this genre has to work. And there were weird moments like that where you're like, why is this here? This makes no sense, but not in a self-aware or artistic kind of way, but in a like, they were confused and either had an intern do some work or like got AI help back in the day before AI was a thing.
Why do you always bring up the interns?
It feels AI generated almost. It's so just like, I don't know, random and jarring and not cohesive that I was just confused the whole time.
Are there any particular levels that you did like? And if the answer is no, then what is one that you liked most? How about that?
I liked the concept of the word tile level.
Word Forge.
Yeah.
I also did.
Again, it lets them try to do some clever things. I wish they'd had more fun with the words, and like they tried to, but that one was probably my favorite.
Which we need to explain. Rather than picking up random items, which you're doing on a lot of stages, you're picking up tiles of words.
Tiles,
and so
like Scrabble.
You'll start with really small A, you know, that is a standalone thing, but you see tons of words all around you in varying block sizes. And yeah, they make sentences that you can collect at certain times, or some of them are
like
trailing around.
Yeah, it's almost like those word collections you would see somebody put on their refrigerator. You know, where it's a bunch of standalone single words.
Yeah.
And then they like...
The magnets?
Yeah, the magnets. But they do them as blocks so they can be something that can be picked up. And it lets them put some little phrases and like play with some kind of humor there. But,
This guy, every word is dripping with disdain. I just need you to hear
he's like
every single word.
Sick of it.
And if he's going to say no at the end, I want him to have described how it could have been done better. Nolan, were there any particular
list?
Nolan, were there any particular stages that you liked?
Yeah, I'm trying to look up the exact name now so I can tell you. I think it was the mall one. Any of the stages where you can pick up a bunch of people is hilarious.
Oh yeah, that is great.
Hilarious. I think that's so funny. And I like the cafe one for that same reason, but there's only like 4 people in that one.
And you only get them like right at the very end.
Right, but the mall one, you start really tiny and eventually start navigating this mall, the bathrooms, there's people everywhere, and so you're picking up cars and people, and I like it when you can see the journey of the character to where you start in this one world and the world grows in scope and becomes something else. And then, I'm just grabbing people that are sleeping in some shop. I don't know.
There is something satisfying about the first time you can grab a skyscraper as well. Just like the scale of what these games do that, like, I get it. That's kind of funny, I guess.
My favorite was probably the final stage. It's called the Megalopolis because of what you just said. You start off just small, gathering small items around you, but by the end, you're picking up all of the buildings, all the skyscrapers, and it is the end of the world in that one. So, like, fire's raining down, and people are screaming and running. There's billboards that say, like, the end of the world is here and stuff like that. And that one felt really good because literally at the end, skyscrapers are becoming part of your body as
you are
like
the end
monster.
of the world.
You're I think the idea there is that the things that you are collecting, you are actually saving from the end of the world. Is kind of the idea, but
they're gonna have some organizing to do.
I think it's you're trying to save the world and ended up being its destruction.
I like that interpretation and think that there should be some fanfic about it.
Yeah,
I've already written
it.
Boys, did either of you find or hear about the 2 secret stages?
I knew about. I didn't go out of my way to find.
No, I thought I beat the game.
I told our producers this week, and if y'all are in Discord would have seen it, there are 2 secret stages that are unlocked by holding a certain key during a particular stage's loading screen. Super simple.
Okay.
If on one in particular, I don't remember, it's maybe the cafe. During the loading screen, you hold P, and then you enter a stage where there are companion cubes all around, and that is what you're collecting as Still Alive and Want You Gone are playing, and you have GLaDOS talking to you and making fun of you as you fall.
It's
great. A portal stage.
Okay, and that makes sense because it was part of the...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You're picking up companion cubes the whole time. There is a cake at the end of the stage that is the largest thing on the map, and you can pick up at the very end.
I actually want to go play that now, but...
Do you want to know the craziest thing about these 2 stages? You can jump.
Oh, that was not an option in any of the other ones.
Yeah, why would they include that in the bonus stages?
I'll tell you why. Because they
added it in the normal game.
They got picked up by Valve to be in this bundle, and they were like, we need to add 2 bonus stages, and realized, hey, we should have put a jump in the game, but didn't go back and
didn't think about that beforehand? Because it would have been nice.
It would have been nice.
The 14th ramp that they put in the first 2 levels should have told them they needed a jump.
The ramps felt sometimes really forced and just stupid looking, like, why is this here? I would have liked to jump. I think they got away without one. I think it makes sense without one. I wanted one, and now I want to play those stages. Actually, that sounds kind of intriguing.
Yeah, and the jump wouldn't have broken anything.
I don't think so. There's just some ledges that they put there to restrict the player from being able to get up to. You have to get big enough to get up that step.
You get pretty heavy when you're that big and you jump. It would break things.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I mean, but
that would have been a cool mechanic.
To do it in those, yeah.
Knock down a building, jump a bunch of times. I don't know.
Adding it in the 2 bonus stages, but not so having a different function in the 2 bonus, but not in the rest of the game is crazy.
You wanted a list of things that this game could have done better. A jump that when you land, some of the stuff that's on you falls off. And so then it's strategic.
Penalty jump.
Yeah, it's strategic. Am I going to get up here faster, but then have to collect some stuff? Like anything.
I don't know if I would have put it on the jump, but I would have thought and think that there's something here with Damacy that does this. But I thought that when I got hit by like some of the snakes or dogs or other creatures like that, that some of my stuff would have fallen off.
That would have been welcome too.
But you don't lose anything. So I ended up feeling like this game was pretty easy. I only had to revisit 3 or maybe 4 of the stages to get an A. After my first playthrough. You can only open up the final stage after you get an A or better on all stages. I only had to revisit a few of them because the very first time I played it, I was able to get an A.
Right. And I think that's fine. I agree. If there were some hazards, that would have been more of a game.
It's
like maybe some more game there to enjoy or some obstacles. But at the end of the day, this game is it's meant to be that kind of arcade style, just walk around kind of brainless thing, and I am always fine with those games existing.
It is, and if people are revisiting, they're revisiting to try and get a higher score or to whatever else. Cool. But that being said, it's a pretty short game too. Like you can play the whole thing.
Very short,
under an hour.
It's very short.
I think maybe under an hour. Definitely under 2
but...
if you are doing all the stages and getting an A or better on them.
Yeah, for sure. It's not you can sit down and play it in one session, and that's not unrealistic at all.
I think all of us probably did that.
Yeah.
Aged.
Sasser in our Discord put this in the Game of the Week channel. I thought it would be interesting to talk about here. The core gameplay of Katamari Damacy is the subject of U.S. patent 7 million blah blah blah. Game performing method, game apparatus, blah blah blah. The patent issued in 2009 primarily describes how the game maintains the roughly spherical nature of the Katamari when objects are picked up. So, I think that's how they got around this patent that the Katamari game has for this style of game, which I thought was interesting because people mimic games all the time. I think that's why you're walking instead of rolling. Because
I'll tell you how they got around it.
How?
This is how they got around it. You just said that patent was made in 2009. They made this game in 2008, and so
I wonder if
Katamari developers said, no one else can do what the Wonderful End of the World did. We need a patent.
Issued in 2009. Maybe they... I don't know how patents work, but
I think it takes a long time to have them.
Either that or this game made them mad and realized they needed to patent their game.
But they were like, I can't believe they knocked us off. Let's protect our ball.
You know what I mean? So
like this game is not.
He hates Katamari.
Like it didn't do exactly the same thing. It just
did the same thing, Kenny.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I'm fine with game. Dude, this happens every single day. There's a million, Fortnite clones.
Yeah, but there's a line. There's a line. Look, okay.
Yeah, I just don't know where the line is.
Fortnite was in some ways, I believe at the beginning, an homage
to PUBG.
To PUBG.
But
it was fundamentally different. They did some different things, and so it was a distinct enough game. You're right. It happens all the time, and that's a good thing. That's innovation.
That is a good thing. It's fine.
You should learn from, borrow, and then expand, and do it in your own flavor and your own way. The problem is, I don't think that this game does it in its own way. I think the smallest tweaks they make are not tweaks enough to make it a distinct enough game. This is a worser Katamari.
It's 100% just derivative.
It's hard for me to argue against
it. Feels like somebody played Katamari and then was like, oh, I want to flex my skills as a game developer and try a thing. Let me see if I can make that game. And then when they did, they were like, oh, this actually kind of worked. Let's sell it.
It makes me think
what it feels like.
What then would... I'm not disagreeing, by the way. I'm just saying, how would you make a game like this, which there aren't a lot? Katamari is such a unique freaking game. How do you make a game that pays homage and is in that genre, but is different enough?
Yeah. Easy.
Oh,
so many
ways. I don't have the answer, but that's what I was wanting from Kenny at some point.
So many ways. Okay, you make since these games are cozy and it's really about the environment, you make a dynamic soundtrack that changes depending on which things you pick up and in what order. Where you're building your own score.
That sounds very hard.
Super interesting. Same thing you're doing, but it's different every time and it feels unique and it's fun. You do the same thing, but it's not a cube. It's a square, and then it becomes a puzzle game on where you flop over, which direction you go, and which thing you pick up next.
Do one mid-air, not on the ground, not walking around. Do it in space, like your ship, and you're collecting asteroids.
Or underwater.
I've got one.
Anything.
I've got one.
Take your shtick. You said you wanted ideas.
I want to join.
You can't.
I want to play.
What's your idea? You
get new maneuvering abilities based on some of the items that you're picking up. So you're able to...
You want it to be a Metroidvania.
I don't, although most games are. I just think that adds another thing. There could be active agents working against you, aliens or whatever, that are trying to shoot pieces off of you, and you have to deal with them or avoid them. There are some ways, plenty of ways.
Anything.
Yeah. Well, not anything.
Don't pick up the vat of cooking oil, or else you're gonna be kind of slippery, and other stuff's not gonna stick to you. But run for that vat of glue, because then stuff's gonna hold on better. There's so many ways you could do the same thing, but with some kind of shtick, some kind of unique thing that's your own, that makes it... I just can't.
I mean, all this game did, and even discussing it, all this game did for me this week was make me realize how freaking one-of-a-kind Katamari is, and how impressive that is. Because, look, Mario, okay, iconic, but there's a billion platformers, and they all did it, they made it their own. So you went from Mario to like Ninja Gaiden, and those two games are completely unique and distinct, and yet Mario inspired all platformers, right? But with Katamari, I feel like it's one and done, dude. I feel like they did it. The game exists. Deal with it. Like I don't know the need for this game or like a game like it.
Speaking of aged, I think one of the things that it does well, and this is no necessarily credit to it, it's just a super easy PC game to play. Boom, there. Like, it's still on Steam. You can play it.
It's accessible.
Now, it does cost $10 on Steam. A 2-hour or a 1-hour game for $10.
It's steep, honestly, for what else you can buy for $10 on Steam.
Do you understand that people buy like a
Fallout
Skyrim for 99 cents?
For $5.
Portal 2 for less than $1.
Yes.
Maybe in the good old days of sales. Those don't exist anymore, let's be honest.
No
and
reason
inflation.
the wonderful end of the world should be $10. That's
I agree.
a ripoff.
I think it's... okay.
But it's easy to play.
I don't know if y'all are familiar. It's easy to play. That's a nice aging factor. But I don't know if y'all are familiar with modern... not even indie, just like one guy games that get that get on Steam. When making some videos before on my own channel, I looked through some of those and played some of those. This squarely fits in that category of like thrown together like one guy kind of games that function, and trust me, there are so much worse than this. This is the actual game. There are levels. It functions. The physics work. The game's fine. I'm not dissing like the functionality of this game. It's just, it's so grassroots in its feel, and this is a thing now on Steam. People just make games like this, and they are so weird, and it reminded me of that.
I get the vibe that you're going for, Nolan. Here's what I wrote down that this game reminded me of, and you guys might disagree.
Probably.
But this makes me so angry when I come across it in the real world, and it reminded me of that. So, big surprise. When you're scrolling through like YouTube Shorts or TikTok.
I don't scroll YouTube Shorts.
You have spent way more time on TikTok than I ever have.
Yes.
So, and like you get to one of them, and it's just like satisfying or funny video compilations that have nothing to do with each other on loop with like a slow, long joke that's being told by an AI voice over it. And none of it makes sense, but these things get tons of watches for some reason because humanity fails itself daily. This feels like that. Or
like when there's a podcast clip up top and they've got something that you can watch at the bottom like a little baby, and it's this game.
It's gameplay footage of like a streamer going, and then like some like anecdote about something interesting in history that happened.
That's what this game is.
It's just like thrown together pieces of things trying to hold your attention that aren't cohesive. Anyways, that's what it reminded me of.
Y'all just had a long discussion about something.
We did.
But Nolan had said something prior that I was going to talk about. Nolan, you talked about this feeling like a one-person developed game.
One guy, yeah.
And and you meant it in a negative light. And here's my experience with one-person developed games is actually different than what you just described, because some of the ones that I've played are ones that are clearly labors of love. And so although they feel indie or look indie, they are done with love and passion, and you can feel that and can experience that as well. My wife right now is playing a game that was developed by one person. It's called Tastemaker, and it is a management sim where you're building a restaurant and you're managing your staff and your menu and stuff like that, and it feels good. Stardew Valley was
but
one.
don't use that as an example.
I know that's an extreme, but even Super Meat Boy, I think, was just 2 individuals. Like, there's so many.
Okay, so go middle of the road. David Brevik solo developing his game, the Terraria clone.
It Lurks Below.
It Lurks Below, yeah, that I loved so much that I know you guys didn't care for, but like it was cohesive. You know, it felt like a one-man show kind of game, but that's more the average. That's what you expect. I don't think they're necessarily
I don't
bad,
think it's a bad
unless they're
thing.
just like cash grabs.
No, some of them are cash grabs, but that's ridiculous. You're not going to get rich from making that. But I have no problem with that. I think it's a good thing because it's artistic. It's like getting experience. It's getting a real game out there. I fully support people that want to be game devs and doing that. So I didn't mean it to sound negative. It's just kind of the world it's just where my brain went when I played this game.
Well, but at the same time, I don't disagree with you because I do think it feels that way. I think this is a cohesive thing. It works. It functions completely. It does exactly what they wanted to do. I don't think the problem is anything with that. I think it's with what they're lacking there is the ingenuity, the innovation, the do something different with. They saw, I'm assuming, they saw a product that they liked, and then they wanted to make that too. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that for you to do, but to then turn around and sell it as your own, that's where I think problematic or hey, we already have it. I think I ended up titling my first play, and it might not be fair. We have Katamari at home.
At home,
you know, like
Katamari at home.
Just
it's 100%.
No, that's a perfect title.
Maybe not harsh enough.
It's
the perfect title.
I don't think it. No, it's just a good title for a video, and I think a fair title. Whether or not someone agrees if it's ethical or not is a whole different discussion. I don't care personally. I think it's totally fine, but again, Katamari exists, and I think it has more of a
soul. Yeah, for sure. And I don't think any of us are disagreeing. If you want a copy of this game, you're just going to have to buy it on Steam. It's $10. I doubt it goes on sale much. But there is no physical copy for you to have. If you want to play other games in the series, as we've already mentioned, Katamari Damacy started in 2004 and most recently had a We Love Katamari reroll release in 2023. So there are plenty of Katamari games to play if you like this series.
Final thoughts.
At the end of each and every episode, we determine whether or not the game gets our vote for New Game Plus status, which is our general thumbs up or thumbs down. It does require 2/3 of the vote to swing one way or the other. We've said it. I had fun playing the game this week in the limited amount of time that I had. It's not a challenging game. And as I've already said, there's something addictive about slowly growing larger until you can swallow up everything into your ball. But there wasn't anything unique or different here. There wasn't a story, and you've got some story, albeit wacky story elements in Katamari Damacy. You've at least got something here. There's no story. They're all standalone. It felt like an unfinished project for a Flash game in the early 2000s is what it felt like. But this is presented to us as a fully fleshed out product that came out in 2008 for the PC, and it's not that. It's either borrowed or, if you want to be harsh, stolen material that shouldn't have. It's on the line of should it have even been allowed and should they go to prison for impersonation.
My God.
And I don't know which side you can determine that. It's either, but my thing is it's either an homage or it is an illegal pirating of an IP.
It wasn't a ball. I think they dodged.
They dodged it.
They dodged the ball. Yeah.
If you want to play a game like this, don't play this. Play the other game that we've been talking about. So I don't always think it's an apt comparison to do that, to say don't play this one instead. But this one is like it's the comparison is not a comparison. It's like it is attempting to be the same thing. So I say no New Game Plus from me.
It's derivative. It's not fun.
Golly.
It made me long for its title.
Golly.
New game minus.
It is fun.
Gosh, over harsh. I'm gonna go with no, obviously. Because yes, just play Katamari. It's got more charm, character, content, and goofiness. And I already said this one feels a little soulless. Once you're done with Katamari, you might be pleased to know there's another game like it you can play. Because again, I can't name a ton in this category, and I think it just goes to show that Katamari did it best and invented it, and then is still king of it. So I don't know. I'm trying to be nice. I genuinely get satisfaction from growing in these stages and like seeing what I can pick up and stuff and progressing. And the game did that. I beat it. And like Dustin told me, I'll be able to do it quickly. Yeah, one sitting, done. I returned the game. Just because why not? Like I'm not going to return to it. Sorry. It just doesn't get New Game Plus for everything we've said the entire episode.
That means the wonderful end of the world is not New Game Plus certified. What did you think on our YouTube poll? 24% said yes, it's worth playing today. Sorry, that's not wrong. 4% said it's worth playing today.
Okay. More like it.
4% said yes. 6% said no. 90% have never played it before.
Yep. Just kind of it's a definition of under the radar.
Many in our community played along this week. I'll get two quick ones out. Jimmy Jacques said, I'll keep it short because this game doesn't deserve more. Terrible Katamari knockoff with unbearably trashy sound design. No NGP.
So we're all kind of going to call it knockoff. We agree it's a knockoff.
I don't know if all of us are.
We didn't even talk about the sound effects. I'm glad he called it out in his comment because they are so out of left field and heavy-handed and obnoxious.
When you hit a snake, it's
stupid phones ring. It's like
voice recorded.
Like you took that old discs that you could buy back in the day for like audio production that were like 10,000 sound effects to be used like in your video editing or whatever, and they just like rolled the dice and picked like 20 of them randomly and were like, let's build a game around it. It's bad.
Mal said, this game is illegal, so of course it's NGP, right? Well, I'll just say if this game is a simple introduction to then go and try Katamari instead, it didn't even make me want to do that. No NGP.
Illegal.
And then a few more substantial commentaries. You already mentioned Sasser. Sasser said, can a low-budget ripoff of a quirky, innovative game of a similar era be enjoyable? Yes, surprisingly. I enjoyed playing Wonderful End of the World as a brief session game on and off this week. Would I give it NGP status? Absolutely not. Why settle for mediocrity when there are superior and longer games out there? Go buy a Katamari title instead.
Yeah, and again, the $10 thing on Steam will get you something crazy good.
Or don't play.
Everyone can fill in the blanks. They know how I feel about these types of games.
Shane said, the Wonderful End of the World, I was able to blast through all the levels pretty quickly, only needing to retry 2 or 3 a few times to reach A or higher. I'm not sure. I think it was worth the $10 I paid for it, but would be fine if I got it on sale. 76 minutes is what Steam says my final time is, and it did keep me fairly engaged during the time There's just not much here overall. Maybe some score or time attack stuff you could do, but that just doesn't really interest me. It feels a bit less of a game at times due to the simplicity of its movement in comparison to Katamari, and it frustrates me here and there, like when you slow down to a crawl at times once you pass a certain size threshold. It's a fun and quirky game that wears its inspiration on its sleeve, and I can't help but respect it some for that. In the end, I did have fun, and I'll say NGP from me. Just grab it during a sale.
Interesting. Because
even the guy that liked it the most was like, it's not worth what I paid for it.
Wait for the sale.
It's not actually worth the money, but...
Finally, Clint, who I think is, this is not a surprise, learning to speedrun it right now, said...
Okay, that means it's not good.
The late 2000s and early 2010s were marked by these silly, low-poly indie games, especially in my gaming history, punctuated with titles like Octodad and Torabash that are centered around silly, weirdly imprecise controls and mechanics. The wonderful end of the world fits right in with the best of them. It's not perfect, it's not packed tight with hundreds of levels, but I think that's totally fine for this little game. It's a silly little thing to show your friends on a weekend or after school, and it's still fun to discover today. I had a blast. I'm aiming for the speedrun leaderboards, and I think this is another one of those silly must-play titles for me.
Must-play is wild.
Must-play is strong.
But totally see the appeal to speedrun this game. I do. I think that it's a quick time attack kind of thing where you could get a personal best like every session if you wanted to.
Yeah, but do you know what would be funner?
Katamari speedruns.
I thought of both of those, but I was originally saying it to just, do the speedrun for Katamari, a more substantial game. But, I'm glad, Clint, that you're doing that, though.
Yeah,
I'm
cool.
interested in watching some of that. For now, though, we are setting aside the wonderful end of the world. Hopefully, the end will postpone and come at a later time.
Yep.
And we are randomly selecting from our Retro Master List the game that we'll be playing for the next 7 days. Randomizing now. I am pleased to inform you and our community that we're going to be playing a game that I adored growing up.
Whoa.
Oh.
Came out in 2004.
Wow.
For the PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube.
Okay, it's an RPG then.
It is an RPG developed by EA Redwood Shores.
EA Redwood. Okay.
It's in the sports.
BioWare?
It's not. It is, I think, our first game in this franchise, and it is a loose adaptation of the first movie. No, I think the entire trilogy. It is not a direct adaptation of the book, but it is a nod to it, because in this game, I believe you are following the core group. This game is called The Lord of the Rings, The Third Age.
Holy moly.
Did I watch you play some of this once upon a time, Dustin?
I certainly could have played it at college some.
We played a Lord of the Rings game some, and by we, I mean y'all, and I watched. I don't know if it was this one.
I was hoping you were going to say one of the action-adventure titles, because I grew up playing those the Two Towers. Amazing games. But hear me. Dude, listen. The Lord of the Rings games, based on the movies, are fantastic. There's a Game Boy Advance one that I had that was a Diablo game. Yes, literally a Diablo game that was awesome. So I'm pumped. I haven't played this one, Dustin. You said you played this growing up?
Yeah, if it's the one that I'm thinking of, because, and I think it is.
There were a bunch though, and they're different in gameplay and style. Until we're sure, there's a little bit of uncertainty.
The Third Age is an RPG in the style of games like those in the Final Fantasy series. The game's turn-based combat system is similar to Final Fantasy X's system. I believe that.
That's not the one I'm thinking of then.
I believe this is the group of travelers that are following in the wake of the story's main characters. And so every once in a while, you'll have Gandalf show up to do something with y'all, or Legolas, but you're playing a different crew as you're following in the wake. I believe, if I've got it correctly, that this is this game. And I wonder, Nolan, because it says a Game Boy Advance game was made out of this game, and it's a turn-based tactics version of this game.
Mine I'm talking about is Return of the King for Game Boy Advance.
Okay, yeah, which is also a sick game.
It is. EA,
a lot
dude,
of these are good.
This is the best thing
time.
EA's done in my mind, or the Lord of the Rings games. So I'm really excited.
All right, this will be interesting to see if it is the game that I'm thinking of and if it is a game worth playing, which we'll do on this podcast. Find a copy of The Lord of the Rings, The Third Age, played along with us this week.
Join us in Discord, please, would you? All you have to do is go to discord.gg/newgameplus.
We want to say thank you to all of you who support us on patreon.com, including our large list of producer-level supporters, including Alex, Alias X, Marley and Antonin, Ben, Big Dude, Craig, Dustin's 5 o'clock Shadow, Garlisle, Gimbin, Hallex, Harold, J. Robert, Jake, Jared, Jordan, Justin, Kenny's Beard, Clint, Knickknack, Corey, Levi, Maximum, Megatroid, Miss Muso, Not Enough Dog, Riff, Sajin, Shane, Shauna, Psycho Mantis, Thomas Turtle, Unbelievable, and Zion. Want to say thank you to our director level supporters who truly go above and beyond. Arlen Yuki, Bro Jim, Super Hypered, The Kentucky Kid, and Siegfried. And thank you to our two newest patrons. Our newest supporters. I guess they're all patrons. There's too many P words and it confuses me. Rook has joined us on patreon.com with his support. And Joey has joined us as a producer on patreon.com, which pleases me.
Welcome. Check out that producer channel.
And really appreciate that you're calling it patreon.com so people know where to find it. You can find us.
That's how the internet works.
On our, no, it's https://www.patreon.com/ngp podcast if you want to be technical.
Well, I don't.
You can find us on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, and YouTube. All of those links are in the show notes below. Listen, or wherever. Listen directly on any podcast provider of your choice. Make sure you subscribe so that you are the first to get new NGP episodes. And while you're at it, please leave a kind rating and review. Our video episode was edited by our friend Dylan. Our audio episode was edited and produced by our friend Dan Willett. Join us next week as we play The Lord of the Rings, The Third Age. Until then, I'm still Kenny.
I'm still Nye.
You shall not pass.
And this has been New Game Plus.